Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got a really exciting review on the 2022 BMW i4. Now, for those of you who do not know, the i4 is BMW's all-electric version of the 4 Series. So it's supposed to be kind of a normal car, if you will. Yes, it's all powered by electricity, but the appearance, the interior, kind of the format of the vehicle, everything is supposed to be normal. And a lot of people are going to appreciate that, I think, and myself included. It's a very approachable and familiar sort of experience. BMW did a really good job with that. Pop open, you see a lift back. Kind of like the lift back design. It makes for a good amount of practicality here. You can get a lot of things in there, a lot of size. Scoot this over and you can see a little bit of underfloor storage, but most of it's taken up by that big old Harman Kardon subwoofer. It's actually fairly new to see a big subwoofer in the back of a BMW, because usually they do their bass underneath the driver's seats. If you do want to see the review of that system, check the link in the description. It is really, really good. One of my favorite sound systems I've reviewed in a long time. Getting into the back. Oh, it's tight. At 5'10", I have to sit straight up and down. My head is hitting the ceiling. I do have enough knee room, but it's tight. Can't really stretch my legs out or anything like that. But you do get to see this beautiful dark brown, or kind of actually medium brown interior. The seats fold in a 40-20-40 split configuration, so again, adding to the practicality aspects of this. I think this is a really good form factor for a main car. It could be your only car, probably if you didn't have a family though. I would not want to be screwing around with rear-facing car seats, even though you do have the ISOFIX latch anchors there. I wouldn't want to screw with it. I would get something a little bit larger, but for a 1 or 2 person family, this thing could do pretty darn well. You could definitely tour with it. Get myself up out of here. You can see the smooth door handles that BMW has been starting to implement. Just when I thought the entire new car industry had gotten away from handles that you have to put your hand up into, BMW is bringing them back. Under the hood, you see plastic. That is about it. No sort of storage or anything underneath that. It's just a bunch of the drivetrain elements. So not getting any sort of frunk practicality added to the vehicle there. Up in the front, you see a lot of what is a fairly conventional BMW interior. The biggest change you're going to notice is this very large single screen infotainment and gauge cluster display, featuring what's known as BMW's iDrive 8, a new version of iDrive. It is different than iDrive 7. There's some familiarity, but a lot of new stuff as well. You got to kind of learn to find things in this menu. It sort of has your apps associated with it. You still have the rotary knob, thank goodness. That's all the same, but you can reach up and touch and see all the different various screens and widgets, and you definitely want to just sit in your car and play around with it for half an hour or so and set it up and acclimate it exactly the way you'd like. And then your big old gauge cluster screen here showing you your speed, some navigation, pretty much all the same things that previous BMWs have been able to show you, your information for charging, etc. Not too much more to talk about from the interior. You got your standard storage areas, wireless charging, of course, a glove box. I like the interior though. I think it's nicely colored, good material, solid, straightforward. The only thing that I do lament a bit is with the new iDrive system, they took away the physical climate controls. You do technically still have one for defrost in the front and one for defrost in the rear. But other than that, temperature or heated seat or anything, you have to bring up this climate menu and find it in there. It's just 1 or 2 extra steps. I know a lot of manufacturers are going that way, so I guess we're gonna have to just give up. And to be fair, this one does work a lot better than many of the other brands, but still, you have the space right here. You could have given us something, or at least maybe right here, like have a heated seat button sort of built into the bottom and clutter it up a little bit and make it functional. But by and far, most notably, is the way this i4 drives. Without any further ado, let's get started. This is the M50 model, meaning we are rocking 536 horsepower and I think it's 586. Hopefully I don't have those 2 numbers switched. Pound-feet of torque, which power numbers have been getting so high in so many cars these days, you almost forget how much that really is. That's It's a really high amount of power for what feels like a fairly average car. I mean, you get into a BMW M car, a full-on M3 or M4, and it does feel more serious inside. It feels more sport and racing oriented. This feels like just a very nice 4 Series, but you're forgetting the fact that under your right foot is an incredible amount of power, always right there, ready for you. But before we talk more about the performance aspects of this car, I want to talk about the powertrain from just a daily usability standpoint, because that's how most of the time you're using your car. You've got your 3 different drive modes, very similar to any other BMW: Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. When you're just driving around in comfort, this thing is very powerful, but not jumpy. It's a very well calibrated, I'm going to use the term throttle. I know throttle is not technically correct for an electric vehicle, but it's habit, and you know what I'm talking about. I am driving it right now in B mode rather than D. B is for maximum regenerative braking as you drive, and what a lot of people call one pedal driving. That means as I come up to a stop, the car will slow itself down automatically as I release the gas pedal, and it'll bring the car all the way to a stop at a pretty decent pace. So in 95% of my driving in this car, I don't have to use the brake pedal. And for any of you who have gotten used to driving that way, it's a much easier way to drive. I mean, right there coming into this turn, never had to move my foot. And I know moving your foot from the gas pedal to the brake, it sounds very simple, but once you don't have to do it, it's easier to drive that way. It's nicer. If you don't care to do that, you can leave it in D, and BMW defaults to what's called adaptive regenerative braking. And technically, this is the most efficient way to drive an EV. A lot of people think getting as much regen as possible is the most efficient, but not so. For example, as I come into this roundabout, if I'm not using any sort of regenerative braking, that is more energy efficient than if I had used some regen to slow down and then had to use electricity again to power myself back up, because it's not a 100% energy recuperation when you use regen. It's fairly efficient. You get a lot of your energy from kinetic back into the battery, but it's not 100%. So it's better to just keep that speed and that momentum going and not use any heat energy to do any sort of regenning and slowing yourself down. Let's switch now from Comfort into Sport Boost, which is, I guess, the EV version of Sport Plus. You hear those really cool, what BMW calls iconic sounds. They are gimmicky, but they're also kind of cool. I gotta admit, I like having them. Oh, and this thing just rockets you away. It has not gotten old this whole week I've had the car. I think this is an awesome amount of power for a daily driver. And because this thing is all-wheel drive and the electric motors do such a good job at placing the torque exactly where it needs to go, even in rain like this, I can drive aggressively and sporty and have a lot of power on tap. It's still days in and I still got a grin on my face. You do feel the weight of the car. It doesn't exactly feel flickable. But BMW did a really good job tuning this chassis and tuning the powertrain. If I had any complaint about its tuning, it would just be that even with traction control all the way off, it's in no way rear biased. So I tried to spin the car around earlier today in the rain and it just pushed. There wasn't any sort of sliding or spinning the car around action. Maybe there's some drift mode that I don't know about, but I don't think that's the case. Let's see. Oh, that is a policeman. I am really glad that he was not back there earlier. See ya! Oh, it's worming for grip. Not only does this thing have incredible amounts of power, but also incredible amounts of grip. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate here in today's drive, but I'll put some footage of me driving it earlier this week in the dry. Around this roundabout, I was able to do 68 miles per hour multiple times, and I don't think I've ever gone that fast around this on-ramp in any car. shows you how controllable it is and how much grip it has. It's rocking Pirelli P0s, but it's a special compound of P0 that BMW worked with Pirelli to create, and it's, for what I understand, unique to this car at this point. It's like perfectly made to work with the i4 M50, and it does seem like a really good compound. My only complaint with it is a bit loud on the highway. You can hear now. There's essentially no wind noise in this car, but you do get a good amount of road noise. i4 is equipped with BMW's very good semi-autonomous driving. So you can see here the car is navigating itself right around the corner, and then it starts to flash at me when I don't have my hands on the wheel, squeeze the wheel, and away it continues. I don't get this luxury with all electric vehicles, but I was able to take this on about a 280 mile, oh, there's Mr. Policeman again. But I was able to take this on about a 280 mile road trip over the week, and that resulted in me having to use an EA charger, Electrify America charger, to charge this up. And it actually worked really, really well. I pulled in, I used my phone app and logged in and started the charger, and this thing did DC fast charging quite well. I was able to continue on with my trip. The efficiency was a little bit better than the estimated range for this car, but unfortunately, with the 20-inch wheels that are equipped here on this model, you lose about 50 miles of range compared to the 19-inch wheels on this car. And to me, I think the 19-inch wheels would be a no-brainer. I mean, what are you going to get with the 20s? Maybe slightly better appearance, maybe it's going to look a little bit cooler to you. Maybe it's going to perform just that much, a little bit better driving around, but you're going to get worse ride quality. This ride is definitely firm, and you're going to lose 50 miles of range. That's a pretty significant amount, and I would rather just have a little bit better ride quality, a little bit cheaper wheels, a little bit less fear of breaking one of those 20-inch wheels on these Michigan roads, and give me that extra range. Give me up closer to 300 miles of usable range with the 19-inch wheels versus much closer to 200 miles with these. We've driven quite a few EVs here at Daily Motor. How does this one stack up? I really, really like the i4. There's a lot to like about this car. I like the normalcy. I like how easy it is to drive, how approachable, how much fun it is, how well the chassis is tuned, how well the car reacts to my driving inputs. It's not as engaging as something like the RS e-tron GT, but that's a car that costs nearly twice as much as this thing. This thing being about $82,000, so it's not quite fair to compare it to that Audi. It's a really good package altogether. I would really like to drive the 40 version of this car. The I guess it'd be the 40 eDrive or whatever they call it, the other version, because I think that's probably the better route for a lot of people. This amount of power is really cool, but I don't know. For me personally, I don't know if paying as much as it costs would be worth it. There's actually a turboprop plane started over there, so this is not going to be a great place to end our review. But the M50 version does a really cool blend of giving you an incredibly sporty, daily drivable car. Yes, the ride is a little bit firm, but I think if you live somewhere outside of a Midwestern state like Michigan, where you're going over highway expansions that are rocking the car all around and you've got a bunch of cracks in the road like this, I think you'd be totally fine with the ride. And this amount of power is just about to that point where you're not going to want for more for a long time. I mean, yes, people always acclimate. You're always going to want to go faster. It doesn't matter how fast your current car is. You're going to want more eventually, but this is a really, really good amount, and having it all right there makes for a lot of fun. Any of my qualms with this car have been very, very minor and dare I say insignificant. Things like the backup camera has kind of a weird placement, and not a big fan of the 20-inch wheels, and still in the learning curve of the new iDrive system here. But yeah, all of those are really, really minor, and this is an electric vehicle I could genuinely see recommending to more and more people who might have not considered an EV up until now. I've just enjoyed driving it. I think that's one of the best things I can say about it is we have so many cars around here at DMHQ, and the fact that I've just been so excited to have this as my car to run out and do errands in, or shoot videos on, or run to the store or something like that. I think that says a lot. This is probably one of my favorite cars I've had around in a long time. There it is, the BMW i4, a car we've been looking forward to for a long time and has not let me down now that it's here. I do wonder if there is a way that you can have it automatically start the car when you put your foot on the brake. I'm used to electric vehicles, you're not having to press the start-stop button, but again, one of those things that super minor complaint. Oh, and $82,000 in manual adjusted steering column. It'd be nice to have that be powered, but again, nitpicks. Forgot how windy it is out here. So thank you so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the i4, check the links in the description. GoPro managed to make it right up until about the very end. So we're going to try to get out and do an official range test later today, but we do have the test of the Harman Kardon audio system, some live drive coverage as well. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.